All right, so this is my K40. The biggest thing I've ever struggled with was getting the bed to be halfway decent. So after messing with lab jacks and the crappy bed that came with it, finally came up with a good solution. This is based off of a spring bed that was on Thingiverse. Very simple design. So let me kind of zoom this. I'm going to move my camera here. So these little plastic pieces right here, these are 3D printed. These right here, they used to come across the top right here and click on. Only problem is they interrupt the sled right here because there's not enough clearance, so the sled would bottom out on it. So what I did was I clicked them into place where I wanted them. There's one on each side, and then I have one back here, and then there's one as far forward as I can get it there. Got them into place, put some sheet metal screws into the side here, and then once they were in place, I went ahead and cut the top off of all four with my Dremel. Okay, so set the camera down, and I'll show you how this thing works. Okay. So they're two separate pieces. This piece right here, this bar mounts across here. I've got shims because every gantry is different. They're not going to be perfectly level in all the corners. So I have small washers in each corner to get the gantry, to get these pieces level. And where you want to start out is underneath this one here, this bar right here, this top one. The bottom side needs to be at your focal point on all four corners. Once you're there, then the rest of it is just simple. These little pieces right here, Harbor Freight springs. One spring kit has enough to do it. I have two on each one. I think these are 3.5 inch long, but you can put whatever length you want. I went with the maximum to get the most drop so I can put larger stuff in my laser engraver. I've got them shimmed with washers, and instead of going straight over the bolt, because the threads just make it so difficult to move these up and down, you go to pretty much, any place you can buy these stainless steel straws that bars are using now, and then just cut them to length. Cut them all the same length. They're perfect because the spring goes around it, the screw goes in it. It's the perfect bushing for this. So how this works is I cut these to length. These fit in here, just like this. And I could still use my honeycomb drill, or I still prefer just expanded metal. Okay, it's nothing crazy. The top of this deck is in the focal point on all four corners. Okay, then I went and made these with my 3D printer. Printed out these shims. I've got 4 of each. Got 1mm, 2s, 4s, 6s. And then after the 6, I have one that's 8 on one side, 10, 12, and followed that pattern on the way up till I got 2 30s. So really all you have to do is say I'm going to do something that's, say, 20 inches or 20 millimeters thick. All I do is get the 20mm shims, drop this down, put my 20mm shims in. Now I have a perfect 20mm focal point, so I can put my product on here and know that it's in focus. If I need to go to a different size, I put a different shim. So no more guesswork. You know, it's you can modify this any way you want to fit pretty much anything you want. It still allows you to take advantage of just about the entire workspace that the K40 is going to give you to begin with, which isn't very big. Even though they say it's 12 by 8, you don't get a true 12 by 8 out of it anyway. So you can use this. You could put just rods across there if you want more, you know, open space behind it. But I cut pretty much anything on here and engrave slate, leather, wood, bamboo, acrylic. The expanded mesh is just fine. Plus it allows me to, if I need to have small pieces on there. Say I'm doing my coasters. My coasters require 8mm shim. I throw the 8mm shims on there. Pop this bad boy on. Throw a couple of magnets on it. I'll open up the rail on the laser. This is a red line around the outside of my coaster. I burn that first, and then from there I just set each coaster in there, do raster engrave. Everything's centered, everything's perfect. So you could spend more time actually working with your laser on product than trying to get things to fit and work right and being in a focal point. So hopefully this video will help somebody. I'll go through and kind of get a shopping list together and add it to the post where I'm going to post this video. But all the parts are pretty easy. All the aluminum got from Home Depot. Really all this is 1/8 inch thick, 1 inch bar stock aluminum. I bought 1/48 inch piece. It's more than enough to do this. I think I might have tapped into a second one a little bit. But your shim system for the corners is going to be kind of your own little deal, because your focal point may not be exactly what mine is. These little brackets are on thingiverse. I'll post the ad or the link to that. I did have to modify mine a little bit, so it just kind of made it didn't have enough clearance right here, but this should fit most standard K40s. So, but that's it. I mean, this thing, I can go all the way down to 40mm, which is pretty good for a K40. And if I need to go below that, then I could make a piece that will allow it to kind of hook over the top of these and drop down all the way to the bed deck, or the deck of the machine inside if need be. So it leaves a lot of space for you to do what you want to do without having to reinvent the wheel and design a completely different bed. I mean, I've looked at electronic the motorized beds, the lab jacks. I mean, this is the best solution here. I mean, the fancy ones, they just take up more room and they're not as flexible and you lose a lot more engraving space. This thing here probably cost me $10 to make, and it works very well. So there it is. I'll post it in a couple of the groups, and if anybody has any questions, let me know.